what makes my method different from other online piano lessons?
Um, you can see, first of all, you can see the passion that you put into it. Like even you've said on some of your lessons, like I don't really know the song, but you've sat for days or however long it's taken you to transcribe it and write it out, and you go through each individual section in detail, and all you have to do is just copy what you're doing. And all right, I might not be quite at the level that you're showing it, but I'll start on slow motion. And eventually, if you keep doing it, you will get to speed. And then you might get to 70% speed of Shawn. And then before you know it, you're at the right level. And then you're like, right, next part, move to the next video.
Wonderful.
So,
That's what I've always hoped. How you
yeah,
guys were looking at this. That's wonderful. On a scale of 1 to 10, how satisfied are you with my lessons?
up 100. I, I'm
Thank you.
customer for life. I'm not going anywhere. I'm a customer for life.
Thank you. Wonderful. Now, for me personally, I'm not going to give myself a 10 because I always want to get better. So I'm always
Yeah,
trying to improve the method and try to improve. I always feel like if you stop getting better, you stop being good. So
yeah.
I'm trying to get better myself. Would you recommend to a friend or family member my lessons? And if so, why?
Oh, I wouldn't hesitate to recommend anyone who has tried the traditional route and never really got into it, or was feeling like, I'm being pushed to learn classical. Go on Web Piano Teacher. I guarantee you will find something that you've covered, because there's, I don't know, what, 2,000 songs
I don't
maybe.
even know. I've lost count. I know that
It's
there are.
just got to be around that. I'm sure you will find something to just get you going. And once you're locked into this method, you won't look anywhere else. It's funny because when I go on my Google search and I type in to log in, it always says you visit this site very often. So even Google's recognizing that I'm like constantly on the website.
Awesome. Do you have Andrew? What can I do for you today? You've done incredible for me, answering my questions and giving me your experience. Is there anything I can do for you? I mean, I know I'm working on a request for you. Is there anything particular that you want in it, maybe that I don't do that you'd like me to do more of? What can I do for you today?
No, you don't have to do anything for me. As I said, you provide the lessons. It's given me a skill that I, I'm never going to be in a band. I know my limit, but just the self satisfaction, and you can edit this part out. But um, when I was younger, my important years of my life weren't that great. I won't go too deep. I can send you an email,
That's okay.
but the piano makes me forget all that stuff, and it really does. I don't want to say it's like a therapy, but where I'm sitting there and I'm trying to learn something, your mind is just locked into that, and all that stuff that happened in the past, I'm not worried about,
Wow.
so you know what you're doing for me is helping me. So the
No
only thing I
way.
was
No way am I going to edit that out. That is probably the best part you just said. Is so much farther than just enjoyment. It can have so much. It is. I think it is therapy, and I think it is. I can't imagine where I would be without it myself. But it's such a big a part of my life, and I love that you said that because music can be that. It is an escape, a good therapy, a good way to just kind of leave some tough things behind because I've had those things in my life too, and I love that you said that.
yeah. And it's, there's so many things that you can do to pass the time, but this is actually something useful to pass your time. It's not
Yeah.
going to a bar and drinking yourself into oblivion, or going gambling or in a casino. You're doing something fun, but also it's like making your life better. So
Right. Yes.
the only thing I would ask on the solo is the bits where it gets a bit crazy with the arpeggios, if you could really give the correct fingering to
Fingering. Okay.
them,
I
because
will.
that's what I'll struggle with. The chord
Okay.
part would be okay, but I think the arpeggios where he's just rolling down the piano like a spider or a rat running up and down.
Yeah.
Um, if you could really go into depth on that.
I will
Uh,
remember that.
yeah.
You're correct. Sometimes I get going and I forget to tell you guys what fingering I'm using. So that's another area I could do better on. And also, if you have a difficult section that you're playing, sometimes a change in the fingering is all that is needed to make that work for you. So sometimes it's not, oh, I can't play, I don't have the technique. It's that maybe different fingering will make it work for you. And different fingerings work for different people. There's one I may use that doesn't work for anybody else, and there's another one that will work for someone else that just makes it immediately work for them. So it's one of those things that you have to trial and error sometimes, but then if you get the right one, oh, that's what I was missing. But I will make sure I show you what I'm doing so that you can and maybe give you some alternate fingerings too, because sometimes you got to try a couple out to see which one's going to work for you. So I will remember that, and I look forward to doing it for you. And I'm gonna say my friend Andrew from London, because that's true now. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for talking with me today,
Uh,
Andrew. I'm gonna send you an email with a link in it. If you wouldn't mind just spending like one more minute just writing a Google review, because that's going to be important for our business part of this. It's just kind of saying what you already said in a couple of sentences is all I would need for that. And I'm also gonna put my phone number in there. You can call or text me anytime, anything you need. I'm here.
Thanks a lot, Shawn. I appreciate that. And it's quite a surreal experience to speak to you, because the last few years watching your videos, and now I'm actually physically talking. So that's why I'm smiling ear to ear the whole way through.
Ah, awesome. And also, if you're ever, I mean, you're in London, but if you're ever in the Waco area, all right, we have, I don't know how, I know Waco's known in America. I don't know how much it's known in the world, but we're known for several different things, some good, some bad. But Waco is a tourist town now. If you ever come over, and visit Waco, you should look me up. You come over, we'll jam, play some songs, have dinner or something. I'll show you around downtown Waco. It's a pretty small area, but it's pretty cool. Yeah, if you're around, look me up for sure. Well, thank you so much for doing this with me. I'm doing for a testimonial page on my website. And so, in 17 years that I've been doing this online, I haven't actually worked on the business side of it at all. And so I've hired some business coaches, and this is one of the things they wanted me to do. And I, was at first kind of hesitant. I'm thinking, how's this going to go? And then I've been loving it. You guys are the most awesome people in the world, and I have so much fun talking to you. I can't wait to do the videos every day. I feel so great after I finish them. But thank you for doing this again. You're in London, right?
Yeah, London, England. Yeah, not the London you're thinking of, like where Buckingham Palace and all that stuff. We're on the outskirts, but yeah, London, England.
Outskirts of that. Okay, so you're close. And how long have you been? In my lessons, how long have you known about me and been using the lessons?
Well, in and out quite a while, but within the last, I'm going to say, year and a half, I've just let the monthly subscription just run, because it's not much. I mean, $20 for all that knowledge and just everything. Literally, you are my piano teacher. I know we don't meet physically, but through the phone or my tablet, Shawn Cheek is my piano teacher. So everything I've learned has come from web piano
we're meeting
teacher.
now. Hey, we've talked together. We're friends now. So that's how I feel about it.
It's surreal for me, because
a year and a half. If you go back further to the first time you started with the lessons, what year would that be? If you guess,
I'm gonna say around. I remember it was around the mid 2000s. I remember learning.
So a long time
Brian
ago.
Adams. Yeah, Brian Adams' Heaven. That was the first song I ever learned from your website. Because obviously not being trained by a professional piano teacher, I couldn't jump in too deep. I had to start with the really simple stuff. And when I looked on that one, it was beginner. And then I was looking, it was right, okay, chords here, left hand, just single notes. And it just developed from there.
Yeah.
And
so Andrew,
there is
what
story, actually.
tell us your Could you tell us your experience growing up? Like, what was your first exposure to music? Did you love music as a kid? Did you take piano lessons as a kid or other instruments? What was you growing up? How was your life affected by music? What were you into?
Okay, so uh, when I was in, we call it secondary school, you call it high school.
Okay.
It was group lessons where there would be one teacher, and each of you would have I think, 61 keyboard,
Oh, that's a
and
lot.
they would just get you, yeah, they would just get you to play like really simple stuff, but because it wasn't focused one to one,
Uh-huh.
not many of us really got the hang of it. And then I enjoyed it because obviously you like piano music, just listening to it for enjoyment. So I've always had it in me to want to learn properly.
Okay.
And unfortunately, my parents couldn't afford like weekly lessons with a private tutor. So it was just the group session. And I
Okay.
never really got beyond, I don't know if the American system is the same, but there's like grade 1,
Oh
grade
yeah.
2, grade.
The
Do they
books,
do that in
graded system, sure.
Right. So I would say I plateaued at around grade 2. And so then, as you go through your teenage years, that kind of thing gets kicked into the long grass because, there's other more important things going on, like with education and all that.
Yeah.
And then I completely forgot about it. And then in my 20s, I decided, right, I want to start this again and I want to just try again. But just the sheet music part of it was the roadblock, and you do need a weekly hour-long session to grasp it. Otherwise, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So I was just looking on YouTube, and then your videos were always there. But then there was all, I know you're not a fan, the Synthesia videos. They were the
Right.
ones that I started to copy. And again, that's okay to a degree, but if you try and do a really complicated piece, the Synthesia, it's very, very time consuming because you've got to figure out what note is being played and this and this and this. And it takes hours just to write
Sure.
like all the notes for one song. And then I was looking at your videos and I was like, hold on, this guy has got the entire layout. It's there.
Uh-huh.
And he's teaching it to you. When you got Synthesia, you don't know how to position your hand. You don't know like the beat, because it sounds like, I know you call it mechanical, and it does. It doesn't sound like someone playing it. It sounds like robotic and mechanical. So then I thought, let me give this a try. And then the second song I learned from you was the Incredible Hulk theme.
Okay.
You know, the lonely
At the end, yeah,
from
the
the
one at the
TV.
end.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I learned that, and honestly, when I played that, I was like, I felt like I was on the moon. I was like, this is unbelievable. This is incredible. And then I dipped in and out, and then the pandemic came along,
Yeah.
and then I was like more time on my hands. And then, as
That
I
was a
said,
really
about
good
a year
year
and a half,
for us, Andrew. The pandemic was a really good year for us on the website.
I, I can imagine. I can imagine
Go ahead.
because we're all at home. We're all at home, nothing to do,
Uh-huh.
and people needed something to fill the time. So I'm sure you would have gained a lot of subscribers to Web Piano Teacher.
Yeah. So I hear you kind of went up through the regular traditional music lessons, which is really geared toward classical music. It really is. And it's really geared
Yeah,
toward reading the traditional music system that has been around for, a few hundred years. And
yeah.
you probably weren't playing the music that you wanted to listen to. Like growing up as a kid, what were you listening to? Not what were you learning in the piano lessons, but what did you listen to that you liked? Who were the
Uh,
bands?
so you can probably guess Bruce Springsteen. He is my number one.
We've got to
No
talk
one.
about him in a minute. Don't let me forget. Go ahead.
I've seen it. I've been fortunate to see him live. I think this was my 7th time. I saw him twice this year when he came to London. So Bruce, Metallica, Nirvana, Elton John,
All right. Yes.
a little bit of Billy Joel. Yeah, that kind of just real music, not the trash that is around now.
Yeah, right. I feel the same way. And I'll tell everybody here too. When you gave me that request that you wanted, I'm working on it right now. The Bruce Springsteen live performance, Racing in the Street. And remind me, who's the name of I never remember names. The name of the piano player that's playing for him there.
Oh, Roy, I don't know how you say his Roy Bittan or
Roy Baton, yes,
Bit-
yes. He's played, I think, for several people, but he's amazing. One of the best rock and roll piano players ever to play on the stage, and I'm so happy I get to do this because I have to spend my time, doing hard requests. If I'm going to do it, I gotta, because I got to pay bills. But I love it when I was, thanking God that I get to do this one, and I'm looking so forward to it. I know you're going to love it. I'm going to love it. Everyone's going to love it.
Yeah. Hopefully, it will send
there, right?
the subscriptions way up.
You were there.
It.
You said in an email you were actually there for that performance, right?
I was in the crowd, and
Amazing.
as I said, that's 2009, and ever since then, that has been a dream to be able to play that solo. And even when you do the complete song, I'm jumping. Whatever lesson starts on the solo, that's where I'm beginning. The other stuff I can come back to.
Yes, and I'm glad you allowed me to do that because I always do the whole song now. Because if I do a part of it, I'm putting it on the site, and all you guys are benefiting from everyone else's hired requests over the past 17 years. And I never want someone to get on and go, "Oh, it's only part of it." I want everyone to get the whole thing. So I decided early on I need to do the whole thing if I'm going to do it. But yeah, start on the solo. But I'll tell you what I'm going to do is I'll sit down probably at the dinner table and I'll just listen because I have perfect pitch. So if I hear something, I know what the notes are immediately, and I can just sit there and write it all out. That's what I'll do first, get it all written out. But that doesn't mean I can play it, right? Even just because I can have it in my head doesn't mean I can play it. So I'll actually have to spend more time learning how to play it, and then I'll make the lessons for it. And I will, if you can, send me a video of yourself playing the solo part. And if you don't want me to let anyone else see it, I won't. But I would love to see you working on it and playing it once you can get it up to, where you can get through it at a medium tempo.
Yeah.
So
I can play the solo of the original because you've got 2 versions of that song on the website now, and I can play the original solo, but it's a lot more scaled back than this one.
Hey, would you agree, Andrew, that you get the bands like this, Bruce, Elton, you get in the live versions, you get so much more than you do than the album versions. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because they've got how many? I think there was maybe 80,000 people there.
Yeah,
they want to lift everyone's spirits and everyone go wild. So they're gonna pull out all the Hollywood finishes into that performance, and that's what piano solo is.
Right. Anything Roy Baton is playing, and there's a handful of others that it's just going to be gold when you play it. And so you can read music. This is interesting because a lot of my members and people who are agreeing to do the testimonials, you can read music. You're not maybe great at it, but you can do it. If you had to, you could do it. It isn't like you can't read music and it's totally foreign. But for some reason, whatever it is, the method that I write with the tablature immediately clicks and works for your brain. Is that true for you? And if so, why do you think that is?
So I could read music at a very, very basic level. So I'd probably be able to know on the staff, like the C, D, E, F, G, and then on the bass clef, the same. But my playing ability is a lot better than my reading ability.
Did you hear me say that, or did you just come up with that? I'm interested because I've always said that. Have you heard me say that, or is that coming out of your own heart?
No, that's genuinely what I know.
Excellent.
Because people say, you play the piano, what grade are you? It's the first thing anyone says. Or if they come around and they see a piano, it's like, oh, can you play classical? And there was what I wanted to get to. So in the pandemic, I actually found a piano teacher local to me. And I thought, I've got the time, so let me just see, because I really want to have a proper go at this reading music. And like what you've just said, what kind of music are you into? And I explained to him, and he turned around and he said, you do realize that all pop music are just failed classical pianists. If you want to learn the piano, you've got to start with classical. Then if you want to go down that road, you can work on that in a few years. But you start, if you're going to do lessons with me, classical. And that was the one and only lesson I had. I paid him the
Can I comment on
£45.
that? I would like to comment on that because I'm his peer, I would think, because I went all the way in classical, all the way. I could play anything classical that you want me to play, and I could probably play it pretty well enough to maybe do a recording of it. I was at North Texas studying to be in the Van Cliburn competition, which is the most prestigious piano competition in the world. And so I went all way with it, and I just said, you know what? I hate this. I'm miserable because I love music. I love classical music, and in fact, now I play classical music more than I ever have in my life. But it was always a job. You always had to get to this level, get to this, take this test, get to this next thing, and it's graded in a way to. It's very cutthroat and competitive, and the love of music is just not there. And these composers, Chopin and Bach, they weren't writing for that environment, but that's what we've made it. And so these classical people, which I was one, tend to look down on Roy Baton and Billy Joel and Elton John and Jackson Brown and all these others because we're, above. But I totally have flipped that to where I feel like some of the things that let me take Stevie Ray Vaughan, a guitar player. I don't know if you know Stevie Ray Vaughan. But he's an incredible, he's passed now, but incredible guitar player. Some of the stuff he does on guitar is every bit as difficult and virtuosic as some of these classical pianists that are playing today, Yevgeny Kissin and Martha Argerich and these others. What he does is every bit of virtuosic and musically challenging and artistic is what they do. It's just different. So I've come to the place where I love classical music, but not in a competitive grade, have to read music sort of way, but I still love it. But I also love rock and roll music. I love, the other side of the aisle. I love them both, but I hate a competitive spirit whenever that creeps in. And I apologize for all of the classical people who think they are better than all the other players and think that what they're doing is better, and that like you said, the guy said they're failed classical pieces. That is ridiculous. That is completely wrong. Some of the most challenging things I've ever done have been figuring it out and playing an Elton John solo. Let me tell you, harder than some Chopin pieces I've played. So I hate that attitude. I love both, but I don't. I hate when you guys are made to feel like you're less than just because you're not a classical musician or you can't read music as well. Because I'm gonna tell you something. I was a terrible music reader because I could hear everything immediately. I knew what it was. So if I needed to play something, I just did what I heard because it was so easy. Why read music when I can just do it from hearing it? And so that's the way I did it because it was so easy. And then, of course, like you said, my playing level began to separate from my reading level. And the farther they get apart, the more frustrated you get. And probably, Andrew, you have a really good ear because that's why that happens, because you're using that strength that you have, the ear. And so the music sight reading kind of suffers because it's so easy to use the ear. Then eventually you do it runs out and you hit a roadblock eventually, which we've all experienced that. So I know what it's like to stink at reading music and need another way to do it, because this is how I kind of solved my problem. And so I love helping you guys solve the problem as well. So I kind of went on a soapbox here. So I apologize for that, but you're saying things that are triggers for me that I'd love to hear what you're saying, because I've always desired that result. I was always hoping that was your experience, that my lessons brought to you, that it allowed you just a different way to do it. It's not better, it's not worse, it's just a different way. And if it works for you and you're having fun playing music, how can that be bad?
Yeah, and with my job, so I teach people to drive.
Okay.
You would know it as a stick shift car, not an automatic, where you've got the gear. That's what I do as a job. And when I get a learner, if I only did one way to teach them, I'd have so many unhappy customers, because you have to try different things. What works with one doesn't work with the other. And that's where your niche has blossomed. And I can't remember where I know it was in one of your videos, but you were saying you were teaching kids and they just weren't getting the music. So you
Yeah.
put the letters and suddenly they started to understand.
Right. On the
And I
side note.
really related to that
Yeah.
because I've done that as well many times when I'm teaching people to drive. I've taught people who are deaf. Maybe they've got a little bit of a learning delay, and you have to try different things, but eventually they get there. And when they get there, the euphoria you get is just I can't
As a
believe it.
teacher, yes.
Yeah,
Wow. So you teach people how to really drive with the stick.
yeah.
But you just mentioned, you just said what every teacher needs to hear. There's not one way that's going to work for everyone. A teacher has to be on the fly, be able to know their craft, their skills so well that they can, and psychology of the other person, that they can find a way to help them learn for their particular situation. But what you just said is the hallmark of every great teacher. That's
Well,
what I think.
I learned my piano from the best.
Oh, thank you. All
Oh,
right. So
that's
the let's see what else were we going. Yeah, these all go different because I really have a good time doing it, just getting to know you guys. Do you play any other instruments? Is it just piano, or do you play guitar and drums too, or what is it?
no, just the piano. I had a couple of experience playing the drums, but not. I never went like deep into it. Just playing around a little bit with the snare and the hi hat and the big bass, but that's it. Never even picked up a guitar in my life. So
Okay, that's
just the
fine.
piano.
I just
I've
wondered.
always been drawn to the piano.
So, you're someone who has done it for a while. You leave it and come back. We all do that. But you never give up, and you're still going. You're still learning, and the fact that you can even attempt this Roy Baton solo, shows to what level you have attained to. Because most people that even say they play the piano cannot attempt what you're about to attempt. In fact, I think a lot of these classical musicians would have trouble doing what you're doing.